Yemen, Syria, Ethiopia, Eritrea, these are just some of the most pressing humanitarian crises facing the world, making the work of the Red Cross more urgent than ever. Earlier at the TRT World Forum in Istanbul, I met the head of the group and asked him whether he feels powerless to stop the root cause of the problem. How bad are things on a humanitarian level? Are we as bad as it's ever been in the modern era?
I think so. This is we are facing an unprecedented number of crises, but what is concerning the most is the number of protracted crises that show the failure of the international community to fix many of them. Look to the crisis in Africa, for example, in the Horn of Africa. Now it seems that there is a new hope, for example, in Eritrea and Ethiopia. But look at Somalia, look at the Lake Chad crisis. So this is something that is a huge reason of concern. Of course, this without mentioning the Middle East, which is, of course, another chapter of the book.
When people think of a humanitarian crisis in the year 2018, they normally think of Syria. Mm-hmm. And let me ask you, is Syria the biggest and the worst still?
At the moment, it's one of the biggest. But if you look at the number, of course, I could say that Lake Chad is also another big crisis because it's a forgotten one. And in terms of funds, it's a huge reason of concern for the humanitarians in terms of our ability to reach all the areas and to provide services to those in need. But in terms of complexity, for sure, Syria is the biggest one at the moment.
Have you got the support from nation states that you want?
Yes, in terms of humanitarian aid, they feel okay with their consciousness in supporting, but if we look at their serious commitment to fix the causes, to stop the suffering of the people, then I think that they are only thinking to clean their conscience in supporting the humanitarian organization. This to be very frank and direct on the answer, because there are huge responsibilities on the shoulders of the so-called superpowers that are playing an important role in this crisis.
Does it break your heart that there's a ceiling to what you can do? You can only go so far. You can't solve the root causes. That's a politician's job.
Yes, it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating. It's something that sometimes I try to fix in myself, finding time to spend time only with myself alone to think, because when you are on the ground, when you talk with the people, when you are forced to confront the level of sufferance, the magnitude of sufferance with the people, with the stories of the people, because sometimes, and in this, let me tell you a sincere thank to your network, because what also we are experiencing sometimes is that those who are suffering in this context, like Syria, are sometimes dehumanized. Now we only talk about numbers, statistics. But behind numbers and behind statistics, we as humanitarians, we have the experience in meeting and in dealing with their own sufferances, the individual sufferances. So each human being that we meet on our roads as a story, as a family, as a legacy. And this is something that it's important also to tell. So your role is such important.
Is there ever an argument for organizations such as yours to become more political, where you say enough is enough? We can clearly identify who is the cause of the problem. So yes, we believe there's an emergency, people are suffering, people are dying. This is the culprit, and the international community needs to stop this culprit. Is there ever a case for that?
Yes, we did. For example, look at Yemen, where I think we were very vocal on this. of course, we always have to maintain our neutrality. But what we are confronting in this modern era, it's what does it mean neutrality when you are confronting this magnitude of needs? And this is something that is also a serious question also for us. We are discussing how to be and to maintain our neutrality when you are confronting the suffering of each human being.
And when they accuse you of taking sides, so for example with Yemen, and you say if you blockade Hodeidah, if you bombard Hodeidah, you're pro-Houthi. What does that do? Does that make you measure your words differently next time?
No, there is to be instrumentalized is always very high when you are dealing with this kind of crisis, but it's always a matter of fact. Rule of war exists. It's not a creation of our fantasy. So, and we are moving on the basis of rule of war, which that means that civilians must be respected, health facilities must be respected, hospitals must be respected, ambulances must be respected. This is a matter of fact. Then, of course, everyone could instrumentalize everything, but again, we try to talk on the basis of what is happening on the ground. And this is the reason why when we say enough is enough or stop, no, the bleeding, this for us as a mean, because we are experiencing on the ground the fact that an hospital has been bombed, as happened a few hours ago in Yemen, in the Médecins Sans Frontières facility. This is a matter of fact, again.
What is the future of humanitarianism? How does it need to change moving forward?
I think that we should start to work on prevention, because humanitarianism is not only about wars and conflict, but also about to deal with the consequences for the climate change, for example. So, and I think that create more resilience in the communities is something that even for the international communities to be something to invest. To prevent, and this could also create a lot of saving instead to deal with the consequences of natural disasters.
Can you give me an example of something over the past few years where the IFRC has given help, intervened in what you do, and you've seen it as a success story?
Oh. We have some a lot of little stories, so that I can tell you about just for me immediately the villages that we built in Haiti after the earthquake, what we have done in Nicaragua after the civil war that has happened. A lot of good experiences in Africa, but the magnitude of the needs is not enough. So this is, and then if we look also at the migration crisis, I think that we can also say and add that we can make an incredible list of good examples and good practices of integration. I think also in your country you have a good model of integration coming from the Turkey Kizilay, and is a center that provides skills and vocational training for the refugees. This is the key. Dignity is not only about food. Dignity is about vocational training and the ability to integrate and create acceptance in the community. And this is which is one of the crises that is affecting not only Europe but the entire world. I can list a lot of good examples of effective activities of the Red Cross, Red Crescent communities.
And my final question to politicians who want to instrumentalize what you do, who want to say, well, leave us to the politics. Sure, you guys can feed people if they're starving, or you can deal with refugees. Your message to them is what?
Well, that's when the humanitarian organizations are instrumentalized, you are really creating and adding other sufferances to the people. I can start with an example of what has happened at the beginning of the crisis in Syria. No, there was a big instrumentalization of the role of the humanitarian aiders, the role of those who were working on the front line to support those in need on both sides. And a lot of staff and volunteers were killed. We lost 70 people in Syria since the beginning of the war. That means that we are not able to reach those in need, and especially when this happens or comes from the politicians of the country that is affected by the crisis. That means that you are creating a strong damage to your own people. You have to respect our neutrality. You have to respect our role. We only want to take care of those in need. We don't want to be part of the discussion. Our message is a message that is born on a battlefield in 1859 in Solferino. Solferino has been one of the most terrible battles in the Second Independence War of Italy. And Yunan, our founder, found himself in the middle of that. And can you imagine at that time how high was the level of anger of the nationalism in that century? But then Yunan and the women of Solferino found that when a man or a woman is suffering, then is not anymore a soldier, is not anymore it's a human being. So we have at our core only the human beings. We don't want to be side of any political discussion of any army. We only care about humanity.
Francesco Rocca, thank you very much for joining us on the Newsmakers.
Thank you.